as well. In between, though, something a little bit drier, perhaps some clear skies, but because of that high humidity I mentioned, temperatures not dropping much. Another pretty muggy night for many of us, a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then as we go through tomorrow, still more rain across eastern Scotland in particular, some high totals continuing to build up, and elsewhere we will see more of that showery rain feeding in from the southwest. Could be heavy, could be thundery again, with some more persistent heavy rain likely to affect some southwestern parts at times as well. Temperatures down a couple of degrees again, but if you get any bright or sunny spells, still feeling pretty warm.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And Tom, look what I received this morning.
This is so sweet. Oh!
Isn't that cute? From one of our viewers and listeners. A little, I think it's homemade.
Shall I hold it up?
Yeah, you hold it up. And a little tiny matching hat as well, which is very cute. Goes up here. So there you go, a little matching hat.
And
also a lovely little blanket as well. Wow. This is from Judith from Leeds, who wrote me a lovely little letter, and to Patrick as well, wishing us well, saying that she loves watching our shows, and I hope we enjoy this little outfit. So there you go.
It's like your little baby is with us already.
So yes, Judith, I hope you're watching, because thank you very much indeed. It's really sweet of you to send that to me. It took a little while to get to us, but we've got it this morning, so that's so cute.
It's incredible craftsmanship, actually.
I'll make sure to take a little picture when the baby arrives.
Are you sure your baby isn't going to be French?
There's something French around it. It's a good thing I like France, so there you go.
Oui, oui.
That's very cute indeed. I just thought I'd say thank you, because it was a really nice surprise this morning.
Yeah, no, it is actually really, really lovely. It does, I mean...
To bring a tear to your eye, Tom.
Well, we haven't really...
Feeling very emotional.
I was going to say...
New life.
We haven't really mentioned, you know, your pregnancy in a little while. And
yeah, after the big reveal. After the big reveal.
You're still with us for a few months more before your due date.
I have to depart, yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you've got me for a little longer. We'll see how it goes.
Marvellous.
See how it goes. It'll be rolling me in. Before I leave this desk.
It'll be a GB baby.
GB News baby. GB baby.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 19th of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
The fallout from the catastrophic Ministry of Defence data breach continues as it emerges Afghans being resettled in Britain are reportedly bringing over 20 relatives each, including some previously refused asylum.
Elsewhere, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is warning today that Britain is stuck in a doom loop of rising taxes. Reports also suggesting that fuel duty could be frozen again. We'll get the latest on the economic picture.
Should 16-year-olds have the right to vote? We'll be debating that fresh policy announcement from Labour with two youngsters. Is it a no-brainer, as the Lib Dems say, or is it a bit more complicated?
Understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going.
Well, in the United States, President Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit accusing Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal of defamation over an explosive Epstein-linked story. How will that unfold?
And you might have noticed that it's raining outside. An amber weather warning is in place for large parts of the country as thunderstorms batter the nation. Get in touch and let us know what you're up to this rainy Saturday morning. The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters, and your weekend starts here. Morning all, great to have your company and great to be joined by Olivia Utley this morning. This is your, what, 7th day back now?
I keep having new first days back at work. I'm enjoying it, milking it for all it's worth.
Making the most of it. And I hope the little baby boy is probably watching us right now.
I wonder if he's going to recognise me on telly.
I'm sure he is. He won't recognise me, but, you know. Hello,
Not yet.
Yeah. So lots more to get into today, Olivia, of course. We've just the top story there in our headlines, that issue with the Afghan resettlement scheme. All those secrets finally coming to light, and I expect more detail to come.
And the stories just keep on coming. So much detail in the newspapers this morning. Really, really fascinating.
So yes, more to dive into there. Really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about all of our stories. Also, what do you make of that Donald Trump battle at the moment, Olivia, with his own side on the Epstein story?
It feels like he's getting in a bit of trouble with the base finally here. There's lots of things that people are willing to sort of factor into a Trump presidency, but this seems to be a little bit too far.
This one's going to stick, I think.
It's going to stick.
But what do you think? Let us know. Send your views, post your comments. You know how to do it by now. It's gbnews.com/your say. But before we do anything else, let's head over to Bethany Elsey, who has all your latest news headlines.
Thank you both. A very good morning to you. Here's your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 minutes past 10. The US president is seeking $10 billion in damages from the Wall Street Journal and its owner, Rupert Murdoch. It's after the paper alleged that Donald Trump sent a birthday message to the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. President Donald Trump insists the letter is fake and is accusing the publication and 2 of its reporters of defamation, claiming they acted with malicious intent and caused him overwhelming financial and reputational harm. The paper's parent company, Dow Jones, said it will defend its reporting vigorously. Israel and Syria have agreed to a ceasefire after days of violence between local fighters and government authorities. Several hundred people have been killed in southern Druze city of Sweda. The UN are reporting nearly 80,000 people have been displaced in the region and that essential services, including water and electricity, had collapsed and that their health facilities were under severe strain. Ukraine's president has said 30 Russian missiles and 300 drones were launched overnight. At least 6 people were injured, including a child, when an apartment block was hit in the port city of Odessa. 10 other regions were affected. Russian authorities claim they are targeting Ukrainian military sites. Thunderstorms and torrential rain are set to batter the UK this weekend, which could pose a danger to life. Amber weather warnings are in place until 11 o'clock this morning for parts of southern England. Forecasters are predicting more than a month's rain could fall in just a few hours. Premature babies will be offered a new vaccine against a potentially life-threatening infection from this autumn. Babies born before 32 weeks can receive the jab to protect them from RSV. The virus can lead to pneumonia and the lung infection bronchitis in babies. The move follows advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccination Immunisation. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley.
Now let's head to our main news this morning, and there are fresh questions over Britain's Afghan resettlement scheme following a major data breach by the Ministry of Defence.
It follows reports in The Telegraph that one migrant has brought over 20 relatives, including some who had been previously refused asylum in the UK.
Well, joining us now is political commentator, migration expert Mike Jones. Mike, thank you very much for joining us on the programme this morning. Some extraordinary information coming out now with these injunctions being lifted, Mike. And that top line, I think, is that some people are bringing up to 22 relatives to the United Kingdom.
Yeah, the higher estimate is 22, many of them in their teens. You know, when this is all done and dusted, the Afghan response route will see around 7,000 people brought to the UK, but of those, only 900 are principal applicants, so the rest are family members. Now, the MOD wanted to restrict the number of family members coming to the UK. You know, they adopted the classical sort of Western European view of a family, you know, the nuclear family, spouses and their children, but shock horror, the courts behind closed doors prevented this from happening. They adopted a very sort of fluid, loose version of the family structure, citing Article 8 of the Human Rights Act. So now we've got many more people coming to the UK than what the MOD wanted. I mean, the super injunction itself was an absolute disgrace. It was a cover-up, but the courts have made this much, much worse.
Now, I mean, is the super injunction such a disgrace? I was reading a really interesting argument by Charles Moore in The Telegraph this morning, suggesting that actually the Ministry of Defence was sort of making the best of a bad job. If they alerted the public, if they allowed the public to be alerted to this breach, then it was more likely that the Taliban would get its hands on it and it might have actually put more lives at risk. So is there an argument that actually the government was, after this catastrophic and really inexcusable mistake, the government was doing the best thing it could?
I don't really accept that. I mean, the MOD commissioned an internal report written by a civil servant called Paul Rimmer. And Rimmer pointed out that the Taliban actually already have substantial data on, you know, Afghans who, you know, worked with British and American officials and soldiers. Pointed out that this data set wasn't necessarily the smoking gun. In fact, he pointed out that the super injunction itself may have actually brought the data set more to the attention of the Taliban.
Yeah, I suppose, Mike, we're still waiting for information on how much of an impact that leak has had in Afghanistan, because the front page of the Mail today is claiming that there have been several murders this week as a consequence of the data set. But as you say, that senior civil servant from the defence intelligence world suggesting that the threat wasn't there. But back to the courts issue, we have seen this now leaked. That last November, a High Court judge ruled that the family members of those being brought back from Afghanistan didn't need to have a blood or legal connection to the applicant. Is that a significant change? Will it have knock-on effects in other cases?
Yeah, I mean, we have a common law system. So, you know, once a precedent is set, then judges tend to imitate it. So, yeah, I think that could almost certainly have a knock-on effect. I mean, it's completely bonkers, the idea that, you know, a family structure doesn't have to have any sort of legal or blood tie element to it. I mean, it's crazy. You effectively have activist judges within the system who expand definitions as much as they can just to increase immigration. I mean, there are people who talk about we should, you know, change the legal culture, but that's going to take decades. I mean, you know, we should definitely look at how judges are appointed. But the best thing to do in the short and medium term is to get rid of the Human Rights Act, because Articles 3 and Articles 8 will be used by these judges to effectively depoliticise.
There are certainly sort of Conservative MPs who've been arguing that for a very, very long time now. I think one element of this story that our viewers will find particularly concerning is the idea that some of these people who have come over as family members would not have been granted asylum under the policy themselves. In fact, one report suggests that only 10% of those who've come over here would have been granted asylum. So who are these people who've been brought over here, and how closely has they been vetted? Because it sounds as though, in their rush to kind of make amends for this huge data breach, it sounds as though the MOD have been letting in all sorts of people with not very much information about their backgrounds. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. They're bringing in every Tom, Dick and Harry, and I'm rather sceptical, should we say, about the vetting procedures there. I mean, Afghan culture is very, very different from Western European culture, and the security risks there are enormously high. We know that Afghans in the UK are about 20 times more likely to commit a sexual offence than a British citizen. We know this through FOI requests from the British government itself. So there's a huge security risk there, and I would expect problems further on down the line.
We've also heard in reports today from The Times that lawyers are expecting to now make applications under the Refugee Convention of 1951, which would allow people to come and get asylum in Britain if they fear there is a well-founded fear of persecution. Now, The Times notes that this means that pretty much every person in Afghanistan would qualify. Do we have the right systems in place to prevent that from being the case?
No, we don't have the right systems in place. I mean, there are clauses in the Refugee Convention that are embedded in immigration law beginning in 1993, but there are various other pieces of legislation. So as well as getting rid of the Human Rights Act and the ECHR with it, you would have to amend other bits of legislation so that the UN Convention on Refugees cannot be abused like this. So yeah, whoever's going to replace the Labour Party at the next election, if they are booted out, I think they will be, they've got, a big legal task on their hands.
Thank you very much, Mike. Really good to hear your expert view there. Just feels as though this story is going to keep on coming. The newspapers are not finished with it, and we're not finished with it here at GB News either. But for now, moving on, and Kemi Badenoch is accusing the government of pushing Britain into a doom loop of rising taxes, with families being asked to pay more for less.
Now, there's fresh speculation that Rachel Reeves is preparing to freeze fuel duty again this autumn in what's being described as a key part of Labour's cost of living fight back.
Joining us now is political commentator Dominic Moffat. Now, Dominic, I mean, obviously we've seen that this Labour government has got itself into some deep water over the last year or so, but the Conservatives too haven't really gained the sort of public attention that they were hoping for. Kemi Badenoch is unpopular both in the country and actually among Conservative Party members. Do you think that this is the right tack for the Conservatives? They are focusing completely now on the economy, and do you think they are now beginning to sort of make their mark? Are people worried enough about what Rachel Reeves is doing to flock back to the Tories?
Well, good morning, Charlie and Olivia. Look, the Conservative Party has often proven itself to be most successful when it's focused on the economy, when it's focused on people's pockets, the pound in their pocket. What's not happened over the last year is people don't feel particularly richer, and the Labour government has absolutely predicated its strategy on people feeling richer on the next polling day. One of the problems that we've seen over the last couple of weeks in particular is we've seen the fractious nature of the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, over the PIP vote, Personal Independence Payment vote. PLMR and Labour List have put together this really interesting online infographic that shows the kind of nature of the connections between different parts of the Labour Party. One of the things it shows is that new Labour MPs elected at the last general election have got some of the smallest majorities in Parliament, and that it's the Conservatives that are in second place in most of those seats. Those people have already shown their willingness to stand up to the government, and they're going to be very nervous about anything that looks like a tax rise that's going to impact the ability of their constituents to feel richer on polling day in 4 years' time. The other thing that we've seen is the launch in the last couple of weeks of the Living Standards Coalition. That's more than 100 Labour MPs that have come together to say one of the most important things is the cost of living. And those MPs are not going to be happy to stand by and see tax rises that impact the cost of living significantly. So yes, it's going to be a very, very difficult time for the Chancellor if she tries to put prices up in the autumn.
Well, Dominic, it'll be a difficult time for the Chancellor because of the actions of those Labour MPs who have watered down those welfare amendments, who have prevented Labour from making key cuts in other areas. And just when the country was getting nervous about these billion-pound black holes that keep expanding, we also find out there's another $7 billion to plug after the secret Afghan relocation scheme. The fact of the matter is, Dominic, she is stuck in a doom loop, isn't she? Because her own MPs won't get involved with Labour's economic plans.
Look, it's £4.5 billion extra required to plug the gap made by the PIP changes. Just, I think, last night, the House of Lords, or yesterday, the House of Lords, took a lot of the power away from the planning bill in terms of building more housing as well, giving a veto to groups like the Campaign to Protect Rural England. Those are things that are going to massively impact the government's ability to do anything over the next 4 years. And you're right, Labour MPs are the reason that the government is in this position, and they're going to have to live up to that.
It's a bizarre situation, isn't it, where just 1 year after the general election, an enormous general election victory, you've got a Prime Minister who just doesn't really have any teeth. His backbenchers are so prepared to totally be undisciplined by him and to go their own way. And that has put the Chancellor in a really, really impossible position. Do you think that Rachel Reeves's time in government is limited? I know Keir Starmer claims it's not, but I can't see her lasting that long.
Absolutely not. I think Rachel and Keir are tied at the hip, and they will succeed together or go down together, and there is no chance of them separating.
Well, there we go. A very positive response from Dominic Moffat there. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Dominic. Well, still to come in the rest of the programme, we'll be debating that big policy announcement this week. Should 16-year-olds have the right to vote?
But next, we'll go through the latest stories of the day, including Danny Dyer's call for the working class.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Welcome to the Bakerloo line, where over the last year, 2 years, every single carriage seems to have been just absolutely covered in graffiti. So we're out this morning to try and do what the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, seemingly can't. Let's clean up the tube. Look, these doors used to be covered in graffiti, but no more. See, it's not impossible.
Not impossible it is, because there is so much that can actually be done. And just a few friends of mine, actually a guy called Joe Reeve, who organised this all, he's from the campaign group Looking for Growth. And he got in touch and said, do I want to come? And I was like, absolutely, I bloomin' do. Because I think we can show some pictures of some of our work, which was just on Sunday morning. And it was actually remarkably simple. What we did was we sprayed the graffiti with sort of anti-graffiti spray, eco-friendly anti-graffiti spray, actually, as it is.
I didn't know
and
it was a thing.
A bit of scrubbing, and look, it just comes off. I mean, this stuff is not rocket science. A total lack of imagination, a total unwillingness to do anything about the sort of social decay that we're seeing in our cities and the country at the moment. A laziness, a profound laziness and lack of political will at the heart of the governance of London that means that people are just like, oh, the washing machine's broken, we'll just live with this social decay. Well, no, you don't have to live with the social decay. You can come up with new ways to do things. You can give some people some sponges, some water and some graffiti spray and get that stuff off. It's not impossible. Pull your socks up, Sadiq. Do something about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Saturday Morning Live with Olivia and Charlie.
Now, you've all been very busy on gbnews.com/your say. Thanks for getting in touch. Lots of discussion about the stories we've been talking about today, but the main topic is Olivia Utley's glorious return. Mark says, great to see Olivia back. Graham says the same. She says, you look so well, which is lovely to say. Annie says, good morning, Charlie and Olivia. Good to see that I mentioned there. It's very kind. Great to see you back, Olivia. Very proud mum of a gorgeous baby boy. Loving the photos. The photos are
and
ludicrously
thank you all
cute.
so much. I've been overwhelmed by the lovely GB News viewers and all your really, really kind comments on Twitter, over here. Yeah, it really feels like a GB News family, as we like to say here.
Absolutely. Well, it's more than just saying it. It certainly feels like it. Absolutely. Well, thank you all for that. And please do stay in touch, gbnews.com/your say, because we've got to dive into our top stories of today. And we've got a wonderful panel today. We've got the former Labour Party chair, Baroness Diane Hayter, and the deputy editor at Conservative Home, Henry Hill. Good morning to you both. How are you?
Good morning. Very well. And congratulations. I have to say, as a grandmother, I look at this with much more ease because we give them back once they get dirty and noisy and things like that.
Bye, back to Mum. It's quite nice handing them over to my husband this morning, actually.
Henry, is this making you broody, all this chat?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, for sure. One day.
One day.
Absolutely certain. I'll arrive
That's
tired.
a politician's
I'll arrive tired for different reasons.
So we're going to pick up, I think, with this interview with Kemi Badenoch in The Express, talking about this doom loop that Rachel Reeves has apparently got the country into. It feels as though the Tories are making a bit of headway now after a sort of quiet few months and are beginning to capitalise on some of Labour's mistakes. But to the meat of what Kemi Badenoch's saying here, I mean, what is Rachel Reeves going to do in the next budget? Because she really hemmed herself in that election. She talked about not raising taxes for ordinary working people, and now her own backbenchers have done her a bit of a dirty with this PIP reversal.
I think Labour's basically living with the karma of 2017. 2017 election, Theresa May, 25-point lead. And being Theresa May, she thinks, I'm going to do the responsible thing, and I'm going to get a mandate from the public to do something unpopular, which was the social care levy. And Labour brand that the dementia tax. It's very effective. She almost loses the election.
Incredibly effective. Brilliant.
Come to 2024, Starmer has a massive lead, and he dare not say anything unpopular, essentially. So he rules out nearly all taxes. Jeremy Hunt manages to bounce Rachel Reeves into ruling out the last major revenue tax during the campaign. Doesn't really sell his backbench MPs on any particularly controversial changes. And now he's got them all elected and they don't want to make any of them. So what's she going to do? It will inevitably be tax rises. She'll extend the freeze on income tax thresholds, which will suck people into higher income tax brackets. Apparently, she's going to freeze fuel duty again, the poor OBR. That means she's going to blow another $4 billion hole in her numbers, and she'll do that every year. But the real problem for the country is this doesn't get us out. People, sometimes you see tax rises framed as the solution. But tax rises suck money out of the economy. And if that's just going on revenue expenditure, more welfare and so on, that's not going to fix our economic trajectory.
Dan, Henry's got a point, hasn't he? They have not been particularly courageous, the Labour leadership, and what they've called for. They've bent the knee to their own backbenchers quite regularly on some seriously difficult issues that needed to be sorted. And he's right as well, on the economic growth prospect, to deal with this problem more seriously, they've also failed to put forward meaningful reforms.
I think there's two things wrong with what you say. One is, actually, I agree with the first one, which is that there are very difficult questions ahead. And you're saying, you know, how is Labour handling those? It would be the same whoever is in government. The economy and the war that we're dealing with in Ukraine, still, going on from COVID. I mean, I blame the Tories for an awful lot of they did wrong, left us with a bit back hole, but some of it was COVID, and any government would have done that. So the country faces big problems. We as electors, if you like, we want better health, we want better schools, we want better streets, we want all of those things, and yet actually we're not prepared to pay for them by our taxation. So that is an issue facing all of us, and I think that's what we're seeing in the government. On the future, though, I think the sort of things that Labour's doing about investment in infrastructure, trying to get jobs for the future, investing in industry, in energy, those things will take time. But unless we do those, we won't have the jobs and we won't have the tax receipts to do things.
It feels a bit as though Labour's sort of giving with one hand and taking away with the other. Yes, they're talking about investing in infrastructure, but if you want jobs in the UK, you can't be raising national insurance on employers. That is putting people out of jobs. That's making it really difficult for employers to employ people. If you impose a big wealth tax, which it looks as though Rachel Reeves is going to do, you're going to get billionaires moving out of the UK, you're going to get them moving their businesses out of the UK, and you're sucking more money out of the economy, aren't you?
Well, on the first one, I mean, we needed to do something about the health service. You know, the waiting lists were enormous.
But we plug money into the NHS over and over again. Is money really the answer?
Yes, we had to get money fast. Now, the advantage about the NI, and I share some of the concerns about it, but the advantage of that was it could happen fast. Many other income tax changes you make actually can take 3 or 4 years to work. We had to get some money into the health service. That was very strong. It was strong, Henry will know, in the polling. It was strong in the demands that people had.
Strong in the polling because people think that businesses are separate from individuals and they don't understand how it trickles out.
And we go back to people want things that they're not prepared to pay for. That is a problem, you know, across any party, is how we deal with that. So I think we had to do that. Now, the longer-term issue is a problem. It takes a long time to change an economy and to make us a much more productive economy. That does take time. But Labour has started well. It started looking at how we can get building going, how we can get housing building, which is good for the people who want to live in houses, but it's good for the economy of getting our own building going, of getting jobs, getting tax receipts.
I think you'll struggle to find anyone who thinks that Labour has started well. If you look at the current polling, it's a very optimistic spin on the current situation. And yesterday they did actually, water down the planning reforms that had originally been proposed in such a way that even people who are working with Labour usually from a different perspective are saying, well, no, we've wasted our time with this business.
It seems to have angered almost everybody.
That was some part of the environmental impact. But on the major issue of making planning quicker and easier and getting decisions through...
But environmental impact assessments have a major impact on how things get built, right? They're one of the major structural factors. They can kill an entire development. If you find out, this is one of the weird things about it, if you find out even that a non-endangered species... Somewhere in London, there was a famous case where there was a kind of jumping spider, which is found all over the place, but it was found in this particular site. And so they managed to mount a legal challenge against the centre of a planned development, not some outlying bit.
If Labour does manage to cut that red tape, then that will make a huge, huge difference, both to ordinary people living in the UK and the economy. But at the moment, it feels like quite a big if. Let's move on now to this interview with Danny Dyer in The Telegraph magazine. He's talking about working people. He thinks working class people should be running the country. He's not a big fan of Keir Starmer. What did you make of it? Start with you, Diane.
Well, first of all, what we need is people running the country who know what they're doing. And I do think that's what's really, really important. I think your class matters much less than whether you've got the ability, the strength, and let's go on to difficult ones for Labour, a united party behind you. Those are what's going to enable you to take the decisions. So that's rather more important than class. Actually, of course, Keir, like myself, comes from a much more working-class background. I come from also my family were miners. My father originally was a chauffeur, and my mother was sort of in service looking after kids. That doesn't make me a good or a bad politician. What happens is what you've done in the years since, and that's what's more important than the class of the person doing it.
We've seen a lot of people making attacks against some of Labour's key opposition at the moment, including Nigel Farage, saying that because he's a public schoolboy, people can't really relate to him. And then you look at what people are actually saying and thinking. Generally speaking, they relate to him a lot more than they do, say, Sir Keir Starmer, despite, as Dan points out, his working-class background. Is this a point that shows that people actually care more about a politician's character, their shared values, than they do their class background?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we've seen time and time again. Boris Johnson being the obvious example, wandering around quoting ancient Greek at people, somehow managed to really connect with the factory workers of Britain. So I think that this idea that you need to be of a particular class in what is a much less class-conscious country than it was a generation, 2 generations ago, is true. I also think the other thing Danny Dyer said is that he wants politicians to be likeable. And, I get it. But I think that really what you need at this point is someone you can respect. Right? How many people liked Margaret Thatcher?
Sure.
Not that many. No. She wasn't the kind of person you'd think, I can have a pint with her. But nonetheless, she was the one who got to grips with the problems facing the country. And I think that if the public respect you, they'll vote for you whether or not they like you, but that might just be a particularly Tory perspective.
Leadership is about moral courage, right? Not just a popularity contest. And do you fear, Diane, that Labour's sort of stuck in that loop as well, trying desperately to focus on the day-to-day flurry of opinion polling rather than having a clear plan?
And what about reform as well? You could maybe argue the same thing.
There's two things. One is, I mean, I know that people do not vote on international issues, but it is really interesting to see how respected Keir Starmer is now around the world.
But is he respected in sort of
Well, I
the
did
Midlands?
say, I was about to say that. That's
Yeah.
what I said. I know people don't vote on international affairs, is what I said. But that is a man who is respected on the world stage. That is not unimportant. And that is important for our future. So, you know, it may be that you don't want to go and have a pint with him, though actually I think it's quite
I'd love
to have a pint with him. Yeah, absolutely. But play football with him would be even better, actually.
Yeah.
But what's important is whether he's got the backbone to take hard decisions. And that is a difficult one for any politician, and that's what's going to be tested. And by the next election, we will see whether he's been able to take the government in the direction that he wants. The likeability, I think I agree with Henry. I think it is respect. And also, does any politician share my basic approach to life? Does he respect family life? Does he respect security on the streets? Does he want for other people the sort of future he wants for his own family? And that's what he's going to have to show.
And I think respect both for the electorate, but also be really interesting to see how much his backbenchers respect him. And I think that's going to be a really, really key question. Does he have the discipline to control his own party?
Yeah, Dan spoke about backbone. The question is, does he have the courage to push through those decisions? You know, he's backtracked on a few speeches and also, it seems, a few policies as well. Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Henry, very much. Still to come, should 16-year-olds have the right to vote? We'll be debating that big policy announcement next. And we'll take a look at what's going on across the pond as President Trump sues over the Epstein report.
But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 10:30. The US president is seeking $10 billion in damages from the Wall Street Journal and its owner, Rupert Murdoch. It's after the paper alleged that Donald Trump sent a birthday message to the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. President Donald Trump insists the letter is fake and is accusing the publication and two of its reporters of defamation. The paper's parent company, Dow Jones, said it will defend its reporting vigorously. It's understood migrants from Afghanistan exploited a UK military data breach to bring extended family members to the UK. Up to 22 relatives were relocated despite previously being rejected for asylum. The details emerged after a super injunction was lifted this week, exposing how the 2022 data breach involving 19,000 Afghan applicants led to unprecedented family reunifications. Government sources have revealed that Afghans airlifted to Britain averaged 8 family members each. Israel and Syria have agreed to a ceasefire after days of violence between local fighters and government authorities. Several hundred people have been killed in the southern Druze city of Sweda, with around 80,000 displaced in the region. The UN are reporting that essential services, including water and electricity, have collapsed and that health facilities there are under severe strain. Thunderstorms and torrential rain are set to batter the UK this weekend, which could pose a danger to life. Amber weather warnings are in place until 11 o'clock this morning for parts of southern England. Forecasters are predicting more than a month's rain could fall in just a few hours. Stay dry if you can. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thanks, Bethany. Well, after the break, we'll be heading to the United States to discuss those latest developments with Donald Trump suing the Wall Street Journal over allegations that they've published a defamatory piece on him about a letter he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein.
And a little bit later in the show, we'll be debating votes for 16. It's a policy that's been hanging around for a long time now. But will it be the win that Labour seems to think it is? Is it shameless gerrymandering from the Prime Minister? We've got two young people on the show to discuss whether or not they think it's a good idea.
Good morning. Here's your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of warnings in force this weekend with heavy thundery rain pushing their way in, including an amber warning across parts of the southeast through this morning where we could see almost 100 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. So that brings the risk of some flash flooding, some difficult driving conditions as well. That heavy thundery rain is pushing its way northwards as we go through the day. So across parts of the Midlands, eastern England, into northern England and southeastern Scotland as well, we have the risk of some intense downpours. Elsewhere, some drier, brighter weather, but also a scattering of showers. And whilst temperatures on paper are down several degrees compared to yesterday, it is still going to feel pretty warm and humidity is high as well. Then as we go into this evening, while a lot of that heavy showery rain in the south will have pushed its way across parts of Scotland, particularly central and eastern parts, Aberdeenshire likely to see some heavy downpours later on. Across Northern Ireland, a scattering of showers to watch out for, perhaps a little bit dry towards Belfast in the east. Meanwhile, across northern England, very wet for some, particularly across northeastern parts. A slightly different story further south across the Midlands, Wales, southern England. There'll be a few showery outbreaks for a little while yet, but also something a little bit drier than earlier on in the day. As we go overnight, kind of two areas of wet weather across Scotland, staying quite wet at times, and then heavier rain pushing in from the southwest as well. In between though, something a little bit drier, perhaps some clear skies, but because of that high humidity I mentioned, temperatures not dropping much. Another pretty muggy night for many of us, a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then as we go through tomorrow, still more rain across eastern Scotland in particular, some high totals continuing to build up, and elsewhere we will see more of that showery rain feeding in from the southwest. Could be heavy, could be thundery again, with some more persistent heavy rain likely to affect some southwestern parts at times as well. Temperatures down a couple of degrees again, but if you get any bright or sunny spells, still feeling pretty warm.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Saturday Morning Live with Olivia and Charlie.
This week, the government confirmed that the vote age will be lowered to 16 in time for the next general election, one of Labour's manifesto pledges.
Now, Sir Keir Starmer said that those who pay into the system should have the chance to say where their money goes.
But the policy has drawn criticism from the Conservatives and Reform, while the Liberal Democrats say it's a no-brainer.
So, should 16-year-olds have the right to vote? Joining us now to debate this issue is the assistant comment editor at The Spectator, William Atkinson, and former member of Youth Parliament for Reading, Zara Khan. Zara, let's start with you. Should 16-year-olds be allowed to vote?
I'm absolutely thrilled that this government has finally moved to give 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote in general elections. As someone who's campaigned on this motion for so many years, I believe that this is the correct move. At 16, you can go to work, pay taxes, become a parent, and even serve in the armed forces. So if you're old enough to contribute to society in all these ways, then you're certainly old enough to have a say in how that society is run.
What I found a bit odd about this is that, OK, I see where you're coming from, but you have Labour MPs who didn't vote, for example, against the smoking ban, meaning that young people will never be able to smoke. You have the law, obviously, that's been passed recently that people under 18 aren't allowed to get married. Most of these Labour MPs seem to want to infantilise teenagers in most ways, and yet on this issue, they seem OK with allowing teenagers to have the vote. Isn't it sort of whatever is convenient for them? They think that Labour will win if they give 16 and 17-year-olds the vote. Isn't it just a matter of convenience, not a matter of moral principle?
I believe that it's important to feel empowered in democracy. And Votes at 16 has already been in place in Scotland and Wales for years, and the world didn't fall apart. It's about making England in line with that progress. And some might claim this move is politically motivated, that younger voters might lean more towards one party than another. But let's be honest, we all have diverse views. We're all shaped by media, culture, and communities. You can see that Gen Z has supported everyone from the Green Party to Reform. So it's not about helping any one party. It's just about strengthening democracy.
William Atkinson, I imagine you take an opposite view, but why stop at 16? What's wrong with votes at 15, for example?
Yes, I mean, the problem with any age at which, any age at which the voting age is set is that it's always entirely arbitrary. You can say that 16-year-olds can pay tax, but, the cast of this new, Harry Potter show, all the 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds and that, will also be paying income tax because they'll be paid and employed. So should we give them the vote on that basis? No, because we don't link taxation with representation in this country. Otherwise, we should deprive the vote of anybody who's a net recipient of public funds. I think it's very clear why the government has done this. We've all seen the opinion polls. We all know how badly it's doing. Young people, it believes, are more likely to vote Labour, so it wants to expand the franchise. I, as somebody who is a Conservative voter, doesn't like this because it means that more people will be voting Labour. And so we go, and so it goes. I think it's an inherent problem of democracy, of where you set the limits to where people should be able to vote. I personally don't think that it should be set at the sort of most liberal possible limit, simply because a lot of people aren't interested in it, and because I don't think we have any real right to advise our sovereign on his choice of ministers. Nonetheless, since everything always changes for the worse, I'd rather that we kept the voting age at the highest possible age, if not 18, then 21, perhaps even 25, if each government chose to raise it.
Well, Zara mentioned that in Scotland, of course, they've gone the other way. You can vote at 16 there, but at the same time, in a sense, their age of criminal responsibility is getting higher. If they're under 25, you get more lenient sentencing. Isn't that a strange dip, William, that we've got this split between some policies going one way and then voting going the other?
Yes, I think as Liv said, it's entirely arbitrary. And I think there's parts of the progressive mindset in power, both in Westminster and in Scotland and in Cardiff, etc., which simultaneously seeks to limit your personal freedom because it doesn't trust individuals to be able to smoke and drink when they like and all the rest, and which has the obvious incentive that, for ideological reasons, like the sort of Whiggish sense that the bounds of democracy should always increase, allied to basic sort of political tactics. The more young people were more likely to be voting sort of Labour in Wales and England, and they're more likely to be voting SNP in Scotland. And as I say, so it goes. I would personally, like to limit the vote to people in their 60s in rural areas who would like to vote Conservative, because that would probably be the best for my sort of nominal political party. But nonetheless, as I say, this is all a sort of much for muchness. It's all pretty arbitrary anyway.
And just a very, very quick question for both of you before we go. How do you think it will affect Labour? I thought that was really interesting what you said, Zara, that actually maybe it won't benefit Labour in the way that Labour seem to think it will, that actually young people might be left-wing, but they might be voting for the Green Party, or actually some of them might be voting for Reform from what they see on TikTok, what they're experiencing in their everyday lives at school. What do you think? I'll start with you, Zara, and then quickly William too.
Yeah, so either way, it's all about young people. We're finally being heard, because the future of this country belongs to all of us, not just those who are over 18. And I just want to make one point that, of course, there is still more work to do. If we're serious about empowering young voters, we must also have meaningful political education in our schools. So giving someone the right to vote is one thing, but giving them the knowledge and confidence to use that right well is another.
And William, what do you think about the point that perhaps Labour won't benefit so much as they think they will?
Well, I mean, we've had a couple of opinion polls which suggest that Labour is the most sort of popular party with 16 to 17-year-olds. But I mean, it's 4 years out from from the next general election. The last time the Labour Party decided to expand the franchise back in 1969, they managed to unexpectedly lose the next election to Edward Heath. And I think this government is already so unpopular, and you already have these whispers about the sort of Green Party leadership election and then the Jezbollah party and all the rest, I think politics is going to look so different in 2029 that even as somebody who is paid to talk about it professionally and for a living, I have absolutely no idea how this will actually turn out in the Labour Party's favour or not. But at least I think, Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer hope it will. And this government really is a sort of example of the triumph of hope over experience.
All right, Zara Khan and William Atkinson, thank you very much. You might have heard William there saying Jezbollah, I believe in a negative framing of this new potential alignment on the left. Not sure what he meant by that, but apologies if you were offended by it.
And still to come, we'll be joined by Chapman Bell as we take a closer look at stateside affairs. President Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch over the Epstein report. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is a forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Lots of blue skies and strong hot sunshine around the Mediterranean at the moment. There's going to be a bit of a breeze blowing, however, this weekend, especially for Crete and Cyprus. Maybe 1 or 2 showers inland across Turkey, but again, most of the coast's dry and sunny. Same goes for Italy and much of southern Spain, along with the Balearics and the Canaries. Also set fair. Temperatures in Tenerife close to 30 Celsius. We'll have highs here of 29 for the next few days and similar temperatures in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. back. It's Saturday morning live, and it's just gone 49 minutes past 10. Now, President Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch and reporters at the Wall Street Journal.
He is accusing them of defamation after the paper published a letter allegedly written by Trump to Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, Trump has since called the letter fake and claims the report caused serious reputational and financial damage. Well, with us now to discuss this is the journalist Chapman Bell. Chapman, he's described this letter as fake, but the Wall Street Journal says that they find their reporting to be rigorous and they will defend it.
Well, he says he personally called Rupert Murdoch and said, don't run it, it's fake. They ran it regardless. So clearly they felt it was worth running and that there was substance, they could back it up. But it's now going to be a potentially long, drawn-out lawsuit.
And very expensive lawsuit, which makes you think that the Wall Street Journal must be pretty confident in itself.
They must be. And like I said, the fact that he personally tried to intervene to stop it and they went forward with it, that shows that they were pretty...
I mean, Trump claims that Rupert Murdoch didn't have the power to pull it, which... well, we'll all see how it comes out in the wash, I expect. But getting on to sort of the substance of these allegations, it does seem to be hitting the Trump base more than anything else I can really remember. His base are beginning to turn against him.
Well, it's been a sticking point for them, and they accused Democrats of suppressing it during the Biden administration. Then this so-called client list was never published, and it really got people upset. They can say that Democrats are continuing to cause controversy and make this a big matter, but it is his base that really wants to have this put out. But, Epstein is a problem that will not go away for a whole generation of wealthy, powerful people because he was involved with so many influential and powerful people. So at some point, we'll see what happens with the U.S. government requesting that this grand jury transcripts that they are published, which is normally not the case. Normally these things are kept secret. So we'll see what comes out of it and what information they can provide to appease this MAGA base.
I mean, the MAGA base has been willing to forgive and forget so much when it comes to Donald Trump, so much that another politician wouldn't get away with, Donald Trump historically has got away with. But this is different. Why is that? Is it the kind of idea of a cover-up, the idea of an establishment? That's something which Trump has railed against.
There's been, accusations of this so-called deep state cover-up and accusing Trump himself of that, which is been his main rallying cries.
Exactly.
So it does seem
hypocrisy.
That... Well, I think that what it comes down to is anyone in power, eventually people who get you there will find something wrong. Exactly.
And his own base, they're supremely confident in this idea in many corners of the MAGA world that this might be a foreign intelligence service has been involved in this in some way and that Trump is resistant to engage in that. The problem here also is that while he's remaining silent on it in some degree, big theories, untested through evidence, are gathering a lot of momentum elsewhere, and he doesn't have the capability, it seems, to react to them.
Well, I think what will happen, in this day of social media, you get theories and conspiracy theories, and the more they're put out there, the more people start to maybe want to believe in them. And I think it kind of that snowball effect, and that's what happens in these instances. But the thing is, it's not just the MAGA base that wants more information about Epstein. It's bipartisan. It's world. I was about to say it's worldwide. And the thing is, somebody who is said to have kept such meticulous notes that there is not any more information than what we're getting is kind of interesting.
It reeks of a stitch-up. I mean, come on, it's so obviously the case that there's more information to release. There was that pap walk with all the files. Clearly, there's more to come.
I think now there will have to be to appease the base, but also the general public, and the fact that they've gone in this lawsuit to say that it is in public interest to release some of these transcripts that were the grand jury transcripts. I think there will be information, but it's going to be a long road.
It's going to be long, and I expect Trump won't be the last person to be damaged by this. Or he's already brought down Prince Andrew, dear old Jeffrey Epstein, now possibly Donald Trump. Who else is...
Well, there have been so many names, and like I said, pretty much anybody who, from this generation, who was influential, you know...
Is a risk.
Is a risk.
Chapman Bell, thank you very much for that. Well, we've got lots more to come on Saturday Morning Live today, including more of today's top stories and a fresh warning from the Labour Party to Nigel Farage and the very latest on that amber weather warning.
So don't go anywhere. We will see you after the break.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. There's some heavy thundery rain around this morning, and that will continue to push its way northwards as we go through the rest of Saturday, with further showers on the way for many places. Low pressure very close to the UK, bringing the dominance for our weather over the next couple of days. But it's this weather front that pushes its way northwards, where we'll continue to see some heavy and perhaps thundery outbreaks of rain, pushing northwards across northern parts of England and into parts of Scotland through Saturday afternoon. Across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, southern southwestern parts of England, there will be plenty of sunshine though, but it will be quite breezy, and particularly if you're stuck under those showers, it'll feel a little cooler than it did on Friday. Highs in the south only 24, 25, potentially 26 degrees, but still feeling pleasant where you do catch that sunshine. That rain continues to push its way northwards as we go through Saturday evening, continuing to see some heavy downpours across southern parts of Scotland, potentially some spray on the roads and some localised impacts from flooding here. Northern Ireland perhaps seeing a bit of brightness to end the day, one or two isolated showers mainly in the west, and a similar picture for parts of Wales and southern parts of England too. However, down towards the southwest, we do start to see that cloud building through the afternoon and evening as we see this next band of rain and showers pushing its way northwards as we go through Saturday evening and into the start of Sunday. There could be some hail, some thunder mixed in here too, potentially some quite heavy downpours locally into the early hours of the morning, and that continues to push its way northwards, as well as further outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Scotland too. Another mild night, perhaps not quite as mild as Friday night, but temperatures still holding up into the double figures for most of us, so perhaps a little uncomfortable for sleeping. And quite a cloudy start to Sunday for many of us. Further bands of showers continue to swell their way northwards around that area of low pressure, and the wind's picking up quite a bit across the south coast too. However, between their showers, there will still be some sunshine, and again, still feeling pleasant in that sunshine, with highs in the south, 24, 25 degrees, and into the low 20s further north.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 19th of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
And the fallout from the catastrophic Ministry of Defence data breach continues. As it emerges, Afghans being resettled in Britain are reportedly bringing over 20 relatives each, including some previously refused asylum in the UK.
And elsewhere, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is warning today that Britain is stuck in a doom loop of rising taxes. Reports also suggesting that fuel duty could be frozen again. We'll get the latest on the economic picture.
Understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going.
And heading stateside, President Trump files a $10 billion lawsuit accusing Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal of defamation over an explosive Epstein-linked story. How will it all unfold?
And an amber weather warning is in place for large parts of the country as thunderstorms batter the nation. Get in touch and let us know what you're up to on this rainy Saturday morning.
Labour is warning today that what they call reform's war on net zero would cost almost 1 million jobs. That's after Deputy Leader Richard Tice wrote to energy companies urging them not to invest in the latest rounds of green energy contracts. We'll unpick the detail on net zero.
And new research out in the Daily Mail today shows that the cost of a summer holiday for the family to European hotspots has soared by 21%. There's also fresh protests on the continent against tourism. We'll look at the best holiday destinations for you.
The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters, and your weekend starts here. People protesting against holidays on the continent if they're in tourism hotspots. That's always been a bit confusing to me. I don't know, it's like people in Westminster complaining about tourists as well.
Well,
you should be welcoming these people.
It happens in Cornwall a lot as well, and Cornwall is pretty dependent on the tourism industry. My father-in-law, who lives in Cornwall, might be watching this, and he feels very strongly against what I'm saying.
Throwing something at the screen right now as you talk about it.
Can't bear the tourists. But it is really interesting, and in Rome particularly, I was there last year, it is, I mean, it's hard being in Rome in the summer. Let's see.
But I don't know, I don't know. You should be relying on tourists so much in some of these places. They fuel the economy, and I will say is be careful what you wish for. You might miss those Brits who come to your seaside towns when we're gone, I reckon.
Well, let's hear from you. What do you think? We're here in London saying that we should be allowed to come to your seaside towns, but send us your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay.
But before we do anything else, Bethany LC has all your news headlines.
Thank you both. Very good morning to you. Here's your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3 minutes past 11. The US president is seeking $10 billion in damages from the Wall Street Journal and its owner, Rupert Murdoch. It's after the paper alleged that Donald Trump sent a birthday message to the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. President Donald Trump insists the letter is fake and is accusing the publication and 2 of its reporters of defamation. He's claiming they acted with malicious intent and caused him overwhelming overwhelming financial and reputational harm. The paper's parent company, Dow Jones, said it will defend its reporting vigorously. Thousands of Afghans whose personal details were leaked but who were not evacuated to Britain are not expected to receive any compensation. The Ministry of Defence says the government would robustly defend any legal action or bid for damages, adding these are hypothetical claims. The data breach saw names and details of 19,000 people, including Afghans applying for the British relocation scheme, with many now saying they fear being targeted by the Taliban. Israel and Syria have agreed to a ceasefire after days of violence between local fighters and government authorities. Several hundred people have been killed in the southern Druze city of Sueda, with around 80,000 displaced in the region. The UN is reporting that essential services, including water and electricity, has collapsed and health facilities are under severe strain. Ukraine's president says 30 Russian missiles and 300 drones were launched overnight. At least 6 people were injured, including a child, when an apartment block was hit in the port city of Odessa. 10 other regions were affected. Russian authorities claim they are targeting Ukrainian military sites. Thunderstorms and torrential rain are set to batter the UK this weekend, which could pose a danger to life. Amber weather warnings are in place for parts of southern England, and forecasters are predicting more than a month's rain could fall in just a few hours. And premature babies will be offered a new vaccine against a potentially life-threatening infection from this autumn. Babies born before 32 weeks can receive the jab to protect them from RSV. The virus can lead to pneumonia and the lung infection, bronchiolitis, in babies. The move follows advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley.
Now, Labour is warning today that what they call Reform UK's war on net zero would cost almost 1 million jobs.
Minister for Energy, Michael Shanks MP, accused Nigel Farage's party of having an anti-jobs, anti-growth ideology.
Now, these comments come after the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, wrote to energy companies urging them not to invest in the latest round of green energy contracts.
And joining us in the studio now is the Managing Director of Green Oil UK, Simon Nash. Now, Simon, I'm guessing that you agree here with the Labour Party and you think that the war on green energy, as they're dubbing it, is a mistake.
Absolutely. Green energy investments provide employment and also part of our net zero strategy, and I think that's extremely important. The Stern Review many years ago said that the costs of dealing with climate change outweighed the costs from extreme weather to disruptions with food supply and so on. We have suffered a lot in this country from increasing energy prices due to Vladimir Putin and our reliance on foreign imported gas. The same with fuel prices for your car. If we electrify the car network, so to speak, that will result in lower energy prices, the lower costs to filling up your car with electricity rather than foreign imported oil. So it's really a shame that Reform UK are doing this. I think probably a lot of people are in favour of some of their policies and they're going to lose a lot of votes with this anti-net zero.
On the whole, it does look as though, polling-wise, you're probably right about that. Net zero is popular with the public. Net zero is popular with the public in theory. People like the idea of policies to tackle climate change. But when it actually comes to it, when people are taxed more to pay for companies perhaps such as yours, when there's less money in people's pockets, don't you think the tide might start to turn on net zero as people realise just how expensive it is?
I don't think so, because it's not that expensive. Putin's foreign gas is very expensive. You can see the success of many energy companies which are making purely renewable energy. They are extremely successful. They're part of the capitalistic private sector. When we just had British Gas as a national supplier, things weren't great. And actually the free market has meant people are funding renewable energy again and again through their home contracts.
The energy market isn't that free, of course. There's still the energy regulator, that the market rate is set in some way. And of course, we do have extremely expensive energy and prices, far higher than many of our sort of international competitors at a similar level of economic development. Is it the case, though, Simon, that we're going too far, too fast when it comes to renewables? People want this to come in, but the technology just isn't there yet.
The technology is there. With respect, in 1991, our renewable energy level was about 2%, and it's now about 42% in the UK, and we have, on top of that, 25% nuclear.
And how expensive are our energy bills?
Well, they are not. I changed supplier to a renewable supplier a few years ago, and it was cheaper. I did the right thing, and it was actually cheaper. How much of our energy price has gone up historically? I mean, again, we are reliant on gas. That was partly the 90s Conservative government when it moved us from coal to gas. And I don't think we can blame it on renewables at all. And actually, Reform UK and most of the political parties, ironically, except for the Green Party, are in favour of nuclear power.
Right.
And I'm in favour of that and renewable energy. And actually, a lot of this kind of huge figure for net zero is investing in British jobs to build nuclear power stations. We've got Hinkley Point C, and you might be aware Rolls-Royce, the company, not the car company, the other part of it, they are looking to make small modular nuclear reactors, which could then power data centres and everything. Britain will have the edge if this green investment goes through with the Covenant.
Well, I think lots and lots of people think that nuclear energy specifically is a huge, huge part of this answer, and it is good, as far as I'm concerned, that the government is investing in this. You talk about moving over to renewable energy and that being cheaper. Is it not the case that that is because the government is subsidising renewable energy? And so, yes, it's cheaper. Your gas bill might look cheaper every month, but you're paying much, much more in taxes for it.
That is not true. I looked on the figures from the ONS, and wind power is actually cheaper than well, it's pretty cheap. It's between 38 and 49 pounds per megawatt hour, which is comparable with fossil fuels now on gas.
I genuinely don't know the answer to this. I've been off for 7 months on maternity leave, so I've been out of the loop.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But is it still the case that the problem with wind power is that it is, extremely unreliable? If you have a still day, then you just don't get very much power, or are there ways around that?
There are absolutely ways around that. There's the Dinnerveg in Wales. There's like a lake on top of a hill, and you release that. So the kinetic energy pumps the water up, and you release the energy when wind supplies are low, and that's gigawatts of energy. That could be replicated. Giant flywheels. Have you heard of Elon Musk's Tesla Powerwall? You have that in your home. They're about £7,000 each, and there'll be cheaper non-Tesla versions. And that allows your home to store energy. So you can have solar panels on your roof, charge up the battery and release it at night. If we all have electric cars as part of a smart grid, we can absolutely get rid of those ebbs and flows due to wind being sort of on and off.
But electric cars, sorry, just the batteries in electric cars, isn't it the case that those batteries are incredibly energy intensive to make in the first place, and sometimes electric cars end up being more polluting and bad for the environment than regular petrol cars?
That's not true. There was a PR company employed by the makers of Hummer to spread the myth that the Prius actually had a higher carbon footprint than a giant SUV Hummer, and it turns out not to be the case. The carbon footprint of making any car is quite high, and electric cars do not have a particularly high carbon footprint. The batteries can be recycled. The previous government under Rishi Sunak funded battery recycling centres. So there's a lot of this kind of myth of, all minerals come from child slave mines in Africa, and no batteries, well, they all get dumped in the sea. This is, not true.
So there are no child slave mines in Africa of creating batteries for electric cars?
So make your phone, laptop and your electric car. Unfortunately, you do get dubious supply chains, and there are solutions to that being worked on at the moment. We can't stop using our phones and TV studios because of this, and we need to look after those people. And, mining is a complicated one because a lot of these people do want the work. It's a case of making it safe and giving them a fair price, and that's the solution.
Let's bring it back to Britain here, because I think people watching at home will be listening to this, Simon, and thinking, yeah, OK, we really want green energy. We want our energy prices to be lower. We want renewables in this country for the environment as well. But we've got politicians setting these arbitrary timescales for let's have this achieved by this point when we don't know if the technology will be able to get there. And at the same time, Simon, there's also this frustration that people talk about nuclear energy, but then they do nothing to change the policy to make it more likely to be developed.
Does that a sense of frustration that you hold as well?
It is. I think there's a problem in this country of contractors consistently trying to rip off the government. We saw that with HS2, which you soon pulled the plug because it's almost like a biblical parable of everyone trying to take money, then the whole thing gets pulled. With nuclear power, it's often been delayed and delayed and delayed. There is a problem in the UK. Most degrees on nuclear and nuclear physics are actually about decommissioning nuclear power stations rather than new technology and how to build new nuclear power stations. That's an education sector issue. The second part of your question about renewables, I mean, it's important we need it. If you could repeat the question, I'd appreciate that.
About the legislation that prevents people being able to develop nuclear power stations, for example. Planning is so difficult in this country. Setting those targets, we're going to have all this by then, but then not doing very much to make it easier for us to build those power stations. Yeah,
well, the arbitrary targets you mentioned, I don't think they are arbitrary. For success in life, you need to set goals, and I think it's important for governments to do that. They might not always be hit. I do think, have you ever seen the movie called Purge Nights, where there are no laws for one evening? We should have that in the planning sector. I think it's ridiculous how long these things take.
One brick down.
Yeah. You know, you've got 6 months to build absolutely anything almost would be good, but protect nature at the same time. I think that is a problem. That's for legislators to... I mean, the trouble is, as an environmental person, I think it's great that we would just be able to build wind turbines and fit... I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't fit double-glazed windows on a church because of these listed building rules. That's absurd. You can't fit solar panels on other buildings. They should just be exempt. Along with double glazing, for example, that's a very easy law to create. And, the politicians need to do that and get rid of these barriers. In China, they've built so much renewable energy, so many high-speed rail lines, so many solar panels, because they don't have these issues. And we need to get something in the middle, I think, here in the UK.
Well, thank you very much, Simon Nash. I think the idea of 6 months where you can build anything, I wonder how that will go down with our viewers. Do get in touch and let us know.
Lots of panicked members of the audience there hearing about Purge Nights, tuning in for a second there. Yeah, thank you very much, Simon, the Managing Director of Green Oil UK. Well, moving on now, it's 12 years since the bedroom tax was introduced, and despite Labour's historic opposition to it, there's been no move to repeal it under the new government.
The policy affects over 500,000 people, cutting benefits for council tenants if their home is judged to have more bedrooms than they need.
Our reporter Anna Riley has the story.
Lost, angry, frustrated, emotional.
These are the words Sarah Duffin uses to describe paying bedroom tax. Her brother's room in their Hull two-bed council house lays empty after his tragic death. And now Sarah can't afford the extra cost to live there alone.
On the 2nd of May 2025, my brother died. I asked the council straight away to get a direct let sorted to move me to a one-bedroom flat. They don't give a monkeys. I'm left in limbo. It's just the benefits cap is killing me. The bedroom tax is a poor tax and it's killing a lot of people. And it's not helping me with mental health issues. I get universal credit, I get £90 a fortnight, and by the time I pay bedroom tax, council tax, I have maybe £5 left to live on. I want the bedroom tax scrapping. It's a tax that people can't afford.
Every day is a struggle for Sarah. She's been unemployed for most of her life and wants the benefits system reformed.
The asylum seekers coming here, they're getting everything hand over fist. I couldn't get a grant for furniture, carpets. They didn't care. They still don't care. I'm left in limbo to live on nothing. The system is broken. Country is broken because Labour don't care. I've got the qualifications to get a job, but there is no jobs. Because the national insurance hike, the tax hike, is killing shops, it's killing businesses. It's not worth working when you've got nothing to live for.
Hull City Council is currently housing Sarah. The authority said residents who sadly suffer a bereavement which leads to a change in their benefits can access help from the council, including applying for a discretionary housing payment. Where a resident has requested to move to a different property in a different area, the process can take time to ensure the placement of that resident is satisfactory. Delays may occur, especially if the tenant wants to be housed in a specific location where there is no available housing. For now, Sarah lives in hope of being moved so that she can lead a better life. Anna Riley, GB News.
And thank you, Anna, for that report. Still to come, an amber weather warning is sweeping across parts of the UK. We'll get the latest on those thunderstorms. Let us know if they're impacting you this morning.
But next, the school's ban on smartphones is having an interesting effect. We'll learn more about that and the rest of today's top stories next. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News. Don't go anywhere.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, just like week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. It's 11:21, and before we continue with our coverage, there's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. It's an incredible £54,321. Here are all the details you need to be in it to win it.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life. Somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by former Labour Party Chair, Baroness Diane Hayter, and Deputy Editor at Conservative Home, Henry Hill. Now, we're going to be talking now about this story in The Times that Russian spies accused of targeting Britain with assassination attempts are being given a huge set of sanctions. Tell us more about what this means.
Essentially, the government has identified and applied sanctions to, I think, 18 operatives in 3 units of Russia's GRU, which is their military intelligence outfit, which conducts espionage operations all over Europe. These individuals live in Russia and aren't going to be coming here anytime soon, so these sanctions aren't necessarily going to take immediate effect, but it will, according to the government, make it harder for them to carry out their operations now that they've been unmasked.
I mean, will it really make it harder for them to carry out their investigations, or is this sort of all for show? We've seen Russians hit by sanctions before, time and again, and it doesn't seem to change very much.
I think it's better to have them outed than not, right? It won't make, if you're a spy, unless you're James Bond, it doesn't actually make your life easier if everyone knows who you are. Obviously, you're correct. It's not going to shut down the GRU. These people are mostly operating remotely. They can still do that. The real challenge is making sure that our infrastructure, and that's both digital and physical, is better protected from Russian attack, because I think that we sometimes think, OK, Russia's a long way away, it's not going to attack us militarily, but there's huge concern about undersea energy cables, for example. Those are very vulnerable. Russia could attack them without necessarily being caught, and various other things. So it's better than not doing it, there's sanctions, but it's not going to magically fix the problem.
I suppose, Diane, one of the reasons why the security services have released this information is to reaffirm and remind people that this is a consistent threat in the United Kingdom, but across Europe, of Russian espionage and sabotage on civilian infrastructure and also critical national infrastructure.
The critical national infrastructure is absolutely, and we think of it as being, you know, nuclear power stations. Actually, it isn't. You know, what's just been said, I think there's one pipe that most of our energy comes through, and underwater cables bring all the data that do everything.
Well, don't give that away.
I think they know. But we had yesterday a debate in the House of Lords led by Lord Robertson, who's done a report. And, you know, he was quite stark as he started speaking. He said, we are not safe. And he went on, you know, if they do hit the electricity, it will knock out all our cyber, because these great big computers have to be cooled. If the cooling fails, that's the end of our computers. So you can stop looking at all of that, stop the sat-navs, and stop everything else that goes. So the warning in the House of Lords yesterday was that this takes a massive amount of work by all of us. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to up our security, because at the moment we're not safe. So I think part of what's happened today is to warn the British, if you like, that there are threats, and they're not about tanks rolling over or submarines coming into our waters. There's stuff below the water. There's stuff up in space that covers our sat-nav and all of that. We're highly dependent now on all the stuff we get remotely.
I've had so many sort of senior military figures saying that, you know, Russia easily has the power and the wherewithal to turn out all the lights in Britain permanently, some people are saying. Is the answer to this really more defence spending?
We have to spend more on defence, and, you know, both Keir Starmer and John Healey, the Defence Secretary, have said we will spend what it needs. And the Robertson, the Strategic Defence Review that was debated yesterday, has set out what it is that's needed. And a lot of this is about cyber infrastructure. It is about also, I mean, identifying the spies. They won't be able to travel, of course, and that's quite important, because that starts making them only ever stay in Russia. So there are things we can do, but the awareness that we're going to have to spend on this if we want to continue to live safely.
Henry, for me, Henry, it feels that it's less about defence spending and more about the national awareness of this threat. Because when I think about classic Russian spying operations in Britain in years gone by, sort of the Cambridge set, those are people who very deliberately wanted to spy for Russia. They had a great connection to it. But we had 3 people being convicted over an arson attack set up by Russian operatives just last month, right? And those people weren't dedicated loyalists to the Kremlin. They were just kids from South London being twisted for a bit of cash and they were very quickly able to be turned to support Russia because they were paying them. Isn't this also a problem about loyalty to the United Kingdom, about loyalty to the state, and perhaps a decreasing level of that patriotism and keenness to protect the country?
To an extent, absolutely. There has been a shift from the classic Kim Philby spy, who is our idea of a spy, to the GRU has actually a very well-known and quite effective method for doing this, where effectively they identify, you'll have your agent, who probably lives in the embassy or in Russia, but then they'll identify local assets that they can train up. And so the playbook is they'll get things like make them do, in Ukraine, pro-Kremlin spray painting, just to start, right? And then if they do that, then they ease them up to the point where they're getting them to do attacks. And that means that if they do the attack and get caught, it hasn't seriously degraded Russia's operation. And the more disaffected people you have, the larger the pool that the Kremlin is fishing in for that kind of operative. So you do need to deal with the actual spies. The actual spies are the people who run the network and coordinate the attacks. But you do absolutely need to consider how easy is it for them to find people who would be prepared to do attacks, homegrown attacks.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
That's quite alarming, isn't it?
Well, let's move on to this phone ban in schools that we're seeing. Sorry, we have some breaking news in a moment about a car ploughing into a crowd in Los Angeles. There are reports that at least 20 people have been injured after a vehicle ploughed into a crowd in LA. The fire department there has said that multiple patients at the scene on the Santa Monica Boulevard, close to Hollywood, with reports of an unknown vehicle hitting a crowd. Initial reports coming in 1 hour ago. It's currently 3:30 a.m. in LA.
Los Angeles Fire Department have issued this statement.
There are initial reports of an unknown vehicle going into a crowd. There are 20-plus patients. An estimated 4 to 5 are in at least a critical condition. 8 to 10 are in a serious condition. 10 to 15 in fair conditioning. Now, the LA Fire Department is coordinating with patient triage and transport at this time. Obviously, this is breaking news on what appears to be a very serious incident in Los Angeles, in California, with more updates coming in. But as it stands, the LA Fire Department suggesting that several people have been injured, multiple patients, after a car ploughed into a crowd in Los Angeles. Well, we're going to read on now to the news. We'll be catching up with that in a moment. Thank you, Baroness Hayter and Henry Hill, for the paper review. Let's go now to the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Let's get you up to date with some of the other top stories around the world. The US president is seeking $10 billion in damages from the Wall Street Journal and its owner, Rupert Murdoch. It's after the paper alleged that Donald Trump sent a birthday message to the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. President Donald Trump insists the letter is fake and is accusing the publication and 2 of its reporters of defamation. The paper's parent company, Dow Jones, said it will defend its reporting vigorously. Israel and Syria have agreed to a ceasefire after days of violence between local fighters and government authorities. Several hundred people have been killed in the southern Druze city of Sueda, with around 80,000 displaced in the region. The UN is reporting that essential services, including water and electricity, has collapsed and health facilities are under severe strain. A fundraiser launched to support the families affected by a coach crash in Somerset has raised more than £12,000 in just 24 hours. A 10-year-old boy was killed in the accident and 6 other children remain in hospital. The community in Minehead has been left devastated, with many leaving tributes outside the middle school. The bus was bringing children back from a day trip to Exmoor Zoo. It's understood there were around 70 people on board. And parts of the UK are bracing for potentially dangerous flash flooding as thunderstorms and torrential rain are expected to hit this weekend. An amber weather warning came into effect this morning, with more than a month's worth of rain was forecast to fall in a matter of hours. The Met Office says fast-flowing and deep flood waters are likely, posing a risk to life as well as transport disruption and power cuts. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thanks, Bethany. We'll be getting the latest from Los Angeles on that breaking news of reports of a car ploughing into a crowd. Back in Britain, we'll be looking at those updates on the latest weather patterns as well, with some warnings put in place.
And how expensive is your summer holiday going to be this year? Tourist hotspots, prices are climbing for flights, prices are climbing for hotels. Can you afford a family holiday? And at the same time, you've got people in Rome protesting about tourists coming over to their capital city. What do you make of it all? Get in touch. GB News, your say.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. There's some heavy thundery rain around this morning, and that will continue to push its way northwards as we go through the rest of Saturday, with further showers on the way for many places. Low pressure very close to the UK, bringing the dominance for our weather over the next couple of days. But it's this weather front that pushes its way northwards, where we'll continue to see some heavy and perhaps thundery outbreaks of rain, pushing northwards across northern parts of England and into parts of Scotland through Saturday afternoon. Across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, southern southwestern parts of England, there will be plenty of sunshine though, but it will be quite breezy, and particularly if you're stuck under those showers, it will feel a little cooler than it did on Friday. Highs in the south only 24, 25, potentially 26 degrees, but still feeling pleasant where you do catch that sunshine. That rain continues to push its way northwards as we go through Saturday evening, continuing to see some heavy downpours across southern parts of Scotland, potentially some spray on the roads and some localised impacts from flooding here. Northern Ireland perhaps seeing a bit of brightness to end the day, one or two isolated showers mainly in the west, and a similar picture for parts of Wales and southern parts of England too. However, down towards the southwest, we do start to see that cloud building through the afternoon and evening as we see this next band of rain and showers pushing its way northwards as we go through Saturday evening and into the start of Sunday. There could be some hail, some thunder mixed in here too, potentially some quite heavy downpours locally into the early hours of the morning, and that continues to push its way northwards, as well as further outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Scotland too. Another mild night, perhaps not quite as mild as Friday night, but temperatures still holding up into the double figures for most of us, so perhaps a little uncomfortable for sleeping. And quite a cloudy start to Sunday for many of us. Further bands of showers continue to swell their way northwards around that area of low pressure, and the wind's picking up quite a bit across the south coast too. However, between their showers, there will still be some sunshine, and again, still feeling pleasant in that sunshine, with highs in the south, 24, 25 degrees, and into the low 20s further north.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with me, Charlie Peters, and Olivia Hartley. Well, it's now time for today's Daily Reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hello, I'm Mike, a Church of England vicar in Sussex. At the heart of Christianity lies a stunning truth. Through Christ's cross, God forgives us. Those regrets that haunt us, He washes clean. It is a joy that we cherish. And yet Jesus challenges us to mirror that grace with others. Forgiven, we must in turn forgive. Now we might think, but what about those truly terrible things? And it's true, those things need careful thought beyond our time here. But if we're honest, so many of the things that we fall out over with others are really quite small in the great scheme of things. Things that are well within our power to forgive. That sharp word, that unintended slight. Jesus tells a parable of a man forgiven a debt of billions by a king in an act of incredible mercy. But his response? He goes away and hounds a poorer man who owes him a comparative pittance, refusing to show that same mercy. Jesus invites us to ask whether there are comparatively small offences that we've allowed to fester and to snowball and to ruin relationships, and whether today is the time to forgive.
And a brief recap on some breaking news this morning. There are reports that at least 20 people have been injured after a vehicle ploughed into a crowd in Los Angeles. The LA Fire Department said there were multiple patients at the scene on Santa Monica Boulevard, close to Hollywood, with reports of an unknown vehicle hitting a crowd. Initial reports coming in 1 hour ago. Over there, it's about 3:30 a.m.
Now, the Los Angeles Fire Department has issued this statement. They've said that there are initial reports of an unknown vehicle into the crowd. There are 20+ patients involved, with up to 5 in a critical condition. 8 to 10 are in a serious condition and 10 to 15 are in a fair condition. The Los Angeles Fire Department is coordinating patient triage and transport at this time.
And we'll be getting the latest from Los Angeles very soon. But for now, back at home, an amber weather warning is in place throughout this morning as thunderstorms threaten to flood large parts of the UK.
Now, the south and southeast are the areas at most risk, with London, Cambridge, Brighton and St Albans among the places issued with the weather warning.
The Met Office warned that between 20 millimetres and 40 millimetres of rain could fall in 1 hour in the warning zone, rising to between 70 and 100 millimetres in just a few hours where heavy downpours persist.
Well, with us now is the weather journalist Nathan Rowe. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. People will be looking out their windows this morning and thinking, where did the summer go?
I know, and it's a very different story, Charlie, from last week when we were looking at temperatures 30 degrees and all that sunshine. A huge turnaround in fortunes today, and really for the next few days. As you mentioned, there are weather warnings in force throughout today across the whole of the country for torrential downpours and those thunderstorms and hail and wind, and up to or possibly more than a month's worth of rain where you see them. Now, the thing with these thunderstorms is, while there is a warning across the whole of the country, it's very difficult to pinpoint where you are going to see a thunderstorm. So where you do get a break in the sky and you see some sunshine, you might be wondering what we're all talking about. But yes, that risk is through the weekend and through Monday as well. There is a fresh weather warning through all of Monday across the UK for thunderstorms. So through the next couple of days, time to be a bit alert. If you're going out and about, the risks are going to be flooding, power cuts, disruption to travel, lengthened journey times, and all that you would expect with the hot and sunny weather giving way to an absolute deluge.
Now, I keep being told that we're about to have a hosepipe ban in the bit of London that I live in. Are we still to expect hosepipe bans now that there's flash flooding across the UK?
Yes, Olivia, you're quite right. There is hosepipe bans already in force in Yorkshire and in South East England, I think. Thames Water have said to minimise or restrict our usage of water. And you're probably wondering, well, if we're getting all this rainfall, then why on earth are we getting hosepipe bans? The water companies' reservoirs are at the moment about 50% at capacity. At this time of year, they should be about 80%. And while we are getting very heavy torrential downpours, the problem is that with the ground being so dry and non-porous after the very long period of dry weather we're getting, that rain is just going to wash off and cause flooding and cause river levels to rise. It's not the sort of rain that we want. You could call it the wrong type of rain, but it's not the sort of rainfall we want to replenish those reservoir and groundwater reserves, which is the long, slow, persistent rainfall, the sort of rainfall that we loathe in the UK that doesn't stop. That is what replenishes the water levels. This rainfall, unfortunately, while it might help the gardens, it might help the farmers, it's probably not going to do that much to replenish those reservoir levels and those groundwater levels.
And Nathan, with an amber warning in place, what will that mean for the authorities who are facing that risk of flooding?
Well, what it means is there's probably going to be an increased demand on first responders, emergency services, places where they do get flooding, and as we've seen in the past in the UK where communities get cut off. The amber warning was in force in southeast England, and as I said, it's not going to be over the whole area. In fact, where I was this morning, I woke up expecting to hear, a catastrophic thunderstorm. We got very little, but where that heavy rain does fall in a very short amount of time, there could be flash flooding, which is when the rain pelts down more than a month's worth in a matter of hours, causing very, very sharp rises in water levels and flooding. And that's what's going to be the main concern over the next few days.
Yeah, and you've got to think in some areas there'll be places close to the waterline where houses might be affected by this too, as we are now increasingly seeing almost every summer. Thank you very much, Nathan, for joining us there.
Well, still to come, we'll be joined by TV presenter and travel journalist Hayley Sparks as the cost of a summer family holiday soars. But can you guess where the best value for money still is? And we're still monitoring the situation in Los Angeles following reports of a car ploughing into a crowd with at least 20 injured. The LA Fire Department saying that up to 5 are in a critical condition.
And we'll bring you the very latest on that as it comes in. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European travel destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Lots of blue skies and strong hot sunshine around the Mediterranean at the moment. There's going to be a bit of a breeze blowing, however, this weekend, especially for Crete and Cyprus. Maybe 1 or 2 showers inland across Turkey, but again, most of the coast's dry and sunny. Same goes for Italy and much of southern Spain, along with the Balearics and the Canaries. Also set fair. Temperatures in Tenerife close to 30 Celsius. We'll have highs here of 29 for the next few days and similar temperatures in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Good afternoon, Britain. A cheerful lollipop man's signature high fives have been stopped in their tracks.
Oh dear. Well, Neil Cotton, believed by local children... sorry. I'll start that all over again. This is a chap called Neil Cotton, and he's beloved by local kids in Howden, East Yorkshire. And he's been told by the council to stop the friendly high-fiving gesture, all in the name of health and safety.
But many parents and motorists are calling it nonsense. No surprises there. So apparently this chap, 57 years old, he spent the last 2 years brightening up the school run in the East Yorkshire town of Howden. There he is, looks like a nice guy, doesn't he? He has a cheerful attitude. He has his signature high fives. The children love it, the parents love it, he loves it. But no, the council says, get on with your job and stop the high fives.
This is the one area of employment where the council's trying to chivvy people on and get them to work harder rather than less hard. But I mean, what have we done in this country where we've sort of abandoned our sense of whimsy? I think adding a sense of whimsy to all jobs, I think, is a fundamental productivity measure, actually. I think if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're going to be doing it better. People are going to go into school or away from school with a smile on their face. What a joyful thing in a town in Yorkshire. I mean, amazing, brilliant. And yet, no, of course, the clipboards have to come out and the dour library monitor style individuals. I bet they're all library monitors at school. And they've just got to tell people that they can't have fun.
Yeah, so the children have to be shooed along. They can't be distracted by such frivolities as a high five.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Now, a brief recap on some breaking news this morning. There are reports that at least 20 people have been injured after a vehicle ploughed into a crowd in Los Angeles.
The LA Fire Department said there were multiple patients at the scene on Santa Monica Boulevard, close to Hollywood, with reports of an unknown vehicle hitting a crowd. Those were initial reports coming in about an hour ago. Over there, it is 3:30 a.m.
Now, the Los Angeles Fire Department has issued a statement saying that there are initial reports of an unknown vehicle into a crowd. There are 20-plus patients involved, estimated 4 to 5 in at least critical condition, 8 to 10 in a serious condition, 10 to 15 in a fair condition. Now, the Los Angeles Fire Department is coordinating patient triage and transport at this time. So, very concerning reports. You can see some pictures now on your screen of the scene as it was captured, closing up to 4 a.m. now. Up to 5 people reported to be in a critical condition, and footage from the scene has showed multiple people lying on the road around a smashed up grey car, according to reports from the scene, that mounted the sidewalk outside a venue called the Vermont. There is footage online that we've yet to verify on our side of this incident, but pictures we can show you now of the serious emergency services response. The LA Fire Department are responding alongside the LAPD.
And we'll bring you that as it comes in to us. We'll hopefully show you that footage at some point. But back to what's happening at home. New research out in the Daily Mail today. It shows that the cost of a family summer holiday to European hotspots has soared by 21%.
Now, the holiday company TUI found that prices have risen in 13 out of 16 European resorts, with Turkey and Bulgaria coming out as destinations with the best value for money.
Also this week, new footage has emerged of what's being dubbed Europe's tourist invasion, with social media footage showing overcrowded streets and record-breaking tourist numbers.
Well, joining us now to share more is the TV presenter and travel journalist Hayley Sparks. Hayley, thank you so much for joining us this morning. What are some of those top destinations that people can go to for the best value for money?
Yeah, so with places like Mallorca and the Algarve seeing such a spike, up to 21% increase in value, holidaymakers will want to head to destinations that are more affordable. So one of the top spots would be Marmaris in Turkey, still coming up as a beautiful place to visit and much more affordable than the other destinations. Also, somewhere else to look out for is Sunny Beach in Bulgaria, which is out of the Eurozone. So that's great for British holidaymakers. And I think if you do a little bit of research, there are so many alternative destinations that aren't the ones that you think of straight away. Also consider using a travel consultant. They work for you free of charge. A travel agent will be there to use their years of expertise and advice, and will also have access to trade-only holiday deals, because almost 60% of the world's stock of holidays isn't actually available for you as a customer to find online. So you will get more choice if you do book your holiday with a travel consultant. So that would be one of my top tips.
That's a really good tip, actually. I've heard lots of people talk about going on holiday to Algeria, which apparently has some amazing beaches. Can we talk too about these tourism protests in places like Rome? There are people going out on the streets because they don't like the hordes of tourists who are coming to their cities. We touched a little bit on this earlier, but don't you think that some of these places are pretty dependent on tourism? Lots of people in these cities are dependent on tourism for their livelihoods. Should there be protests against tourism?
I can see this from both sides. I was presenting in Rome last year and the crowds were extensive. And I think there's a difference between crowds and also sometimes the behaviour of the crowds, because people were pushing, they were being very impatient. People wanted to get their photos and videos by the Trevi Fountain, for example, and you'd have some people patiently waiting and other people sort of shoving, pushing in. And I have so much sympathy for the residents when, if they're sort of trying to just sort of walk around their local area and they're sort of shoulder to shoulder with tourists, you know, that could be pushing and shoving. It's very difficult, but of course the economy does rely on tourism. But if you are planning to head to any of these beautiful destinations, then consider going out of peak season, or you will have to be prepared to kind of like muck in and just sort of get stuck in with everyone else, and takes the enjoyment away, and it's difficult to see the beautiful architecture and the sights in these places.
Well, Hayley, I think we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lots of great travel destination tips there, Olivia. I have to say, that tourism protest issue that's being raised, I think they have to be careful what they wish for. You may not like us when we come over all the time.
Although I see what Hayley means about the behaviour of those crowds. I expect some sort of Instagram types who are desperate to get their photo aren't particularly respectful.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. But, I mean, you'll miss out on the photo ops anger and the frustration of those people, sure. But you'll also miss out on all the money we spend on your restaurants.
I'm
go
with
to
you,
your
I'm
bars. You keep your countries floating in some cases, for goodness sake. I mean, some of these islands will miss the Brits massively. Right, well, that's all from us today. Thank you very much for joining us on Saturday Morning Live, a special edition with Olivia Utley.
Thank you very much, Homie. And Dawn Neeson is up next with The Weekend. Saturday Morning Live will be back next week.
With Miriam Cates. I'll see you then.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. There's some heavy thundery rain around this morning, and that will continue to push its way northwards as we go through the rest of Saturday, with further showers on the way for many places. Low pressure very close to the UK, bringing the dominance for our weather over the next couple of days. But it's this weather front that pushes its way northwards, where we'll continue to see some heavy and perhaps thundery outbreaks of rain, pushing northwards across northern parts of England and into parts of Scotland through Saturday afternoon. Across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, southern southwestern parts of England, there will be plenty of sunshine though, but it will be quite breezy, and particularly if you're stuck under those showers, it will feel a little cooler than it did on Friday. Highs in the south only 24, 25, potentially 26 degrees, but still feeling pleasant where you do catch that sunshine. That rain continues to push its way northwards as we go through Saturday evening, continuing to see some heavy downpours across southern parts of Scotland, potentially some spray on the roads and some localised impacts from flooding here. Northern Ireland perhaps seeing a bit of brightness to end the day, one or two isolated showers mainly in the west, and a similar picture for parts of Wales and southern parts of England too. However, down towards the southwest, we do start to see that cloud building through the afternoon and evening as we see this next band of rain and showers pushing its way northwards as we go through Saturday evening and into the start of Sunday. There could be some hail, some thunder mixed in here too, potentially some quite heavy downpours locally into the early hours of the morning, and that continues to push its way northwards, as well as further outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Scotland too. Another mild night, perhaps not quite as mild as Friday night, but temperatures still holding up into the double figures for most of us, so perhaps a little uncomfortable for sleeping. And quite a cloudy start to Sunday for many of us. Further bands of showers continue to swell their way northwards around that area of low pressure, and the wind's picking up quite a bit across the south coast too. However, between their showers, there will still be some sunshine, and again, still feeling pleasant in that sunshine, with highs in the south, 24, 25 degrees, and into the low 20s further north.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5.